The fog clung to the Appalachian mountains like a living thing. Trees twisted in the dim light, their skeletal branches scratching the sky. Somewhere deep in the forest, a low, guttural growl echoed, too deliberate to be the wind, too intelligent to be an animal. Legends spoke of a creature older than the mountains themselves. Locals called it the Skinwalker, a being that could wear the flesh of others, a shapeshifter that hunted without mercy. But tonight, the forest felt different. The stories felt real. You've heard whispers from the cabins long abandoned, tales of missing hikers, and strange lights that dance just beyond the tree line. Some say if you listen closely, you can hear it breathing behind you. Watching, waiting. No one knows where it comes from. Some believe it's the restless spirit of someone who wronged the land. Others insist it's something darker, something that feeds on fear itself. And once it chooses a target, there is no escape. Imagine walking a narrow path, your boots muffled by fallen leaves. A mist drifts across your path. Every snapping twig, every rustle of underbrush sets your heart racing. You glance to your left and see a figure. Human but wrong. Too tall, too thin. Its eyes reflect a light that shouldn't exist. You blink. It's gone. But the feeling remains. Someone or something is watching. Tonight, we follow one such story. A hiker lured deep into the woods. A local who dismissed the warnings. And the Skinwalker, lurking just out of sight, ready to blur the line between the living and the monstrous. Because in these mountains, when the wind carries a whisper and the fog thickens, it's not just the cold that chills your bones. Something else waits. Something patient. Something hungry. And the question is, will you survive the night if it decides to notice you? The sun had long disappeared behind the ridges of the Appalachians, leaving only a gray haze that swallowed the forest whole. Hikers whispered about the strange things they'd seen. Shadows moving where no one should be. Eyes reflecting a cold, unnatural light. And always that low, persistent growl, echoing as if the woods themselves were alive. It started small. A missing backpack left by a trail. Footprints that vanished mid-path. Strange symbols carved into the bark of ancient trees. Deep, jagged scratches that didn't resemble any animal. Some locals claimed these were warnings. Others swore they were invitations. One night, a lone camper named Jacob thought he heard someone, or something, call his name. His voice, echoing faintly from the mist, was soft at first, almost a whisper. Then closer, clearer, almost human, heart pounding. He turned, but the clearing behind him was empty. Only the fog moved, curling like fingers across the forest floor. Jacob was not alone. Others reported glimpses of figures slipping between trees, too fast to follow, yet too deliberate to be mere shadows. Some said they saw people they knew, or thought they knew, but their faces were wrong. Too long, too wide. And their eyes. The eyes were hollow, reflecting a predator's hunger. The Skinwalker doesn't announce itself. It waits. Patient. Calculating. It mimics voices. Shapes. Even the trust of friend. And in these Appalachian woods, that's exactly what made it terrifying. You never know if the footsteps behind you are your own imagination, or something that has already decided you are its next meal. Jacob's night ended with a single moment that he couldn't forget. A snapping of a branch, a figure darting just at the edge of the clearing, and the unmistakable feeling of being stalked. He ran, only to find the path behind him had vanished. It was as if the forest itself had shifted, swallowing the trail, keeping the hunter within its grasp. And yet, the most unnerving part was the silence that followed. A silence heavier than any darkness. It pressed in on him. The knowledge that whatever was out there was patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By now, the forest had swallowed all traces of civilization. The mist pressed against every branch, every leaf, turning the familiar into something alien. Jacob's footsteps crunched softly on the damp ground, but he wasn't alone. He could feel it, eyes tracking him, calculating, waiting. At first, he told himself it was paranoia. Just the stories, the legends creeping into his mind. But then came the unmistakable sound of movement, soft, deliberate, circling him. A branch snapped to his left. He spun around. Nothing. A shadow flickered behind a mist. Too fast. Too precise. Not random. The Skinwalker doesn't chase like a predator of flesh and blood. It toys with its prey. A whisper of movement behind you. A familiar voice calling your name. Even a shape of someone you trust, just slightly wrong. Jacob froze. A figure stepped from the fog. Human enough to be familiar, yet distorted, elongated, and wrong in subtle ways. "You shouldn't be here," the figure said, voice unervingly calm. Jacob's heart slammed. He stumbled backward, tripping over roots and loose stones. The figure melted into the fog, then reappeared ahead, blocking his path. Each blink brought it closer. The forest around him seemed to stretch and bend, disorienting him, making every direction feel like a dead end. Panic clawed at him. Every instinct screamed to run, but where could he go? The Skinwalker wasn't just hunting him. It was teaching him fear, reshaping the forest to keep him inside its nightmare. Every rustle, every whisper of wind carried a question. Was that a tree? A branch? Or the Skinwalker shifting into something human or worse? Jacob realized he wasn't just lost. He was being hunted by something that could wear the face of anyone or anything. A chill crawled up his spine as he caught a reflection in a puddle. His own face stared back, but in the corner of his eye, it shifted, eyes black as coal, grin widening beyond reason. He ran blindly, branches tearing at his clothes, roots catching his feet. The forest wasn't just around him anymore. It was against him. And somewhere, deep in the mist, a low growl reverberated through the mountains, promising that tonight, the hunter would become the hunted. The cabin loomed in the fog, its windows like dark, unblinking eyes. Jacob stumbled toward it, desperate for shelter. But the moment he crossed the threshold, the air shifted, heavy, cold, and thick with something that didn't belong. The walls seemed to breathe, the shadows stretching unnaturally, reaching for him. Inside, it was quiet, too quiet. No creaking floorboards, no wind slipping through the gaps. Just silence. And then the whispering began. Low, guttural, unintelligible, but unmistakably close. He spun, flashlight shaking in his hand, catching glimpses of shapes flickering just beyond the beam. The Skinwalker revealed itself differently here. No longer just an elusive shadow, it pressed into his mind. Every fear he'd tried to suppress bubbled to the surface. Faces he'd known, voices he'd trusted, they all twisted into the predator he now faced. The cabin became a hall of mirrors, each reflection warping reality, showing him versions of himself he didn't recognize. Jacob's heart pounded. The entity wasn't merely hunting him, it was changing him. Subtle at first, his vision blurred in the corners. Movements in the dark seemed too familiar, almost like his own. Then the whispers grew louder, guiding, commanding, testing. Could he trust his senses? His own hands? Or had the curse already claimed him? A sudden movement in the corner caught his eye. A figure stepped into the light, human, then animal, then something in between. It lunged, but not at him, but at the reflection in the mirror. Jacob watched in horror as the Skinwalker consumed the image, melting flesh and bone into itself, leaving only emptiness where a person once stood. He realized then the cruel truth. The curse wasn't just to kill. It was to transform, to blur the line between hunter and prey, predator and victim, to make you see yourself as the monster, or worse, make you become the monster. The fog outside thickened. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate, and Jacob's breath caught. The Skinwalker had left, or perhaps it was already inside him, whispering, shaping, waiting for the final moment to strike. The scratching grew louder, closer. Jacob's flashlight flickered and died, plunging the cabin into suffocating darkness. Every instinct screamed to run, but the forest outside had swallowed all paths. And inside, something moved, something that shouldn't exist. Then a whisper, not a voice he recognized, Not human. It hissed his name, bending the sound, warping it into something sinister. Jacob's skin crawled. His reflection in a cracked mirror twisted before his eyes, revealing eyes that weren't his own. Hollow, hungry, patient. Suddenly, he understood the truth. The Skinwalker never truly leaves. It doesn't just hunt and vanish. It waits. It chooses its next form, its next victim. The curse doesn't end with death. It spreads through fear, through imitation, through the very blood in your veins. Outside, the fog thickened, stretching into the valley and beyond. Hikers, campers, even those who scoffed at legends, none were truly safe. In the shadows, figures moved just out of sight, watching, waiting. And every night, the mountains echoed with whispers, growls, and footsteps that were never really human. Jacob's story ends here, or perhaps it continues. He may have escaped the night, or maybe he has already changed. Every reflection, every shadow could be him, or the Skinwalker wearing him like a mask. And the mountains? They keep their secrets well. Those who hear the whispering wind might feel a prickle on the back of their neck, a cold breath on their shoulder, and a presence just behind them. The Appalachian forests hold many legends. Most fade into campfire stories and whispers, but the Skinwalker is real, patient, shapeless, hungry, and the moment it notices you, you're never alone again. So the next time you hike a lonely trail or stumble upon an abandoned cabin, remember this. The mountains have eyes, and they never forget. Some footsteps are not meant to be followed. Some shadows are not meant to be chased. And some curses can never be escaped.